Hello and welcome to your favorite sports hangout packed with great stories across different sports. I'm Dip Dipianco.
And I'm Jamie Lim. We got stories from the SEA Games, PBA, and Japan B.League coming right up. This is Starting Lineup.
Dancing, swaying, shooting.
Puts a long palm and hits a nice attacker three.
And again. Suarez tosses to Netura.
We begin with a champ in the studio here to talk about his second gold medal in his SEA Games career from the Philippines Jiu-Jitsu national team. Welcome and congratulations, Dean Roxas. Dean, thank you so much for stopping by. Congratulations, first of all, for your second gold medal in the SEA Games, Jamie. The last time Dean competed in the Southeast Asian Games was back in 2019. So 6 years he had to wait.
That's right.
You guys also, you were there, Jamie.
That's when we met.
Nag-meet kayo. You
In an
also
interview.
went through interviews because of
Yeah.
the medals that you won. Pero ngayon, tell us about it, Dean. 6 years the wait before you set foot on that stage again. How was it like waiting and preparing, first of all, bago natin pag-usapan yung actual competition?
Well, first of all, thanks guys for having me, for inviting me over, and I really appreciate it. For me, it was surreal because 6 years was a long time. Honestly, of course, with the pandemic happening and everything else that put everything in limbo, I wasn't even sure when I was going to compete in the SEA Games again, because in the last two editions of SEA Games, my weight category wasn't there, but it's just a surreal feeling, and just really grateful to be able to represent the country again.
Yeah. Now I want to ask, because it's your second SEA Games, can you tell me the difference? Of course, it was special in 2019 because it happened in the Philippines, but can you tell me what makes this special as well?
It is more special because as a first ever champion in the sport in SEA Games, because 2019 was an inaugural event of Jiu-Jitsu there, so it was the first time it was included. And I'm grateful that after joining the sport, after 5 years, I was able to represent and win for the country. But 2025, of course, there was more pressure. There was more of expectations of, okay, who's going to be the field and what's going to happen. And it was also even more special because I was training in Japan for almost 2 weeks and I got injured.
Right.
So 3 weeks before the competition, I wasn't even sure if I was going to represent because of how bad it felt for me. But at the same time, my support group, my friends, my girlfriend, and my coaches and PTs, they were all encouraging me and giving me the best words every single day. So that was more special because I did it for them.
Can you share with us ano yung nangyari dun sa Japan with the whole injury and how you decided na you felt that you were ready to compete still despite that being 3 weeks away, di ba?
Yeah.
From competition, kasi December, so year-long ka nagpe-prepare.
Yeah.
Daming pwede mangyari, and then that happened. Can you share with us?
Well, of course, the whole year of leading up to it was actually just about the SEA Games from the national trials. So when that happened, it happened to me around November 20th. I was supposed to fly back the 21st. Pero nangyari sa 20th. I was supposed to fly back the 22nd, so I had to book the flight right after, like the day after, because I didn't want to stay there and just be alone and with those thoughts in your head, not being able to sleep probably, or unable to even function properly because it happened in a lower body siya. So it was tough, but at the same time, when I was able to bounce back from it because like within 3 days, I felt like, okay, I flipped the switch again. When I went back to the Philippines, I saw my PT, I saw a doctor, and after being assessed, they told me that you just have to believe that you'll be ready by then.
Yeah.
So a lot of faith, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And when did you finally realize that you could play? Like, was it only a few days before the SEA Games, and did you get the go signal also by your team?
Yeah, actually, the doctor told me, it was not as bad as I thought. It's just that, the buildup of cortisol, unable to sleep. So my recovery wasn't that good, especially mag-isa ka doon, malamig, tapos you're not able to give yourself the proper avenue to recover.
Yeah.
So I only realized that when I got back 5 days after the injury. I was like, okay, I can still compete. My level is still pretty good. My conditioning is high. So I just had to make do with what I can. So as athletes, we're resilient, but whatever happens to us, we just take the good and take the bad out and make the most of what we can do. So I was still doing conditioning drills, upper body drills. So
All right, let's talk about the competition proper. That happened first half of the SEA Games, diba? And then the first match that you played, the quarterfinals at least, yung Vietnam.
Yeah.
Tell us how it felt being back on the mats. Just that feeling, initial na pagtapak mo siguro, ano yung tumatakbo sa isip mo. Because after 6 years, again, ito yung first SEA Games mo.
Yeah, well, the start of the whole year, all I've been doing is visualizing what it's going to feel like when it's actually there. And when your imagination bridges reality, it's so surreal because when you're so focused and just visualizing everything, I'm sure James is familiar with this. When you step on the mats, it should be familiar feeling.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be new. When you step on the mat, it shouldn't be like, oh wow, grabe, hindi ganito. Because the moment you become a fan of the moment, you're not in the moment. You're just going to be a fan of the event. Oh wow, this is SEA Games again. And I think that's what most athletes get wrong. Like they put it on top of the pedestal so much that when they're there, that's when the nerves come in. That's when they become like a horse with blinders. That's when they become so narrow-minded. So do not be a fan of the event. So when I was there, I was like, okay, this is how it's supposed to feel. And I was just excited, There was no fear in the back of my mind because I know it exists there, pressure exists there, but at the same time, when you know you've done the preparation, that's when you can bring yourself there to be confident and just be excited rather than fearful.
Yeah, and that's so true. And especially in our matches, you don't know what your opponent's gonna do. So there's so many things you have to manage: the nerves, the size of the event, what you're gonna do, what they're gonna do. So it's a lot of last-minute decision-making, and you do rely on your training. And how about the pagod? So between the first round and the semifinals, how was the turnaround time? Was there enough time to rest? How did you feel?
It was only 5 minutes in between. Because if they're going to go through a division, I'm sure you're familiar with this with karate, they will finish the ones who make it through the next round, they'll keep fighting right away. The repper charge, which is the bronze medal bracket, I call it, which is more difficult sometimes, they take longer. Like, when you lose the first round, you'll have to wait for like 30 minutes. Not like when you keep winning, it's only 5 minutes. Matapos sila, if it ends by submission, it's less than 5 minutes. Dean Roxas. So, blue side, red side. So, with that happening, if you didn't prepare for it, meaning if you didn't do your conditioning, if you didn't do your lactic acid training, or your anything that will help you get that recovery faster, then that's when you'll probably be like, oh my God, it's again and again. So. But when you're used to that pressure in training, and when you're confident with your training, I think it won't matter anymore.
Yeah.
You just have to believe in your training. That's it.
And that's what you mentioned in one of the interviews from our correspondents who covered in the SEA Games. That confidence comes from preparation.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, visualize mo how it would be. You prepared well for it. Sobrang prepared ni Dean. Mabilis yung break, di ba? 5 minutes. Pero yung gold medal match niya, mas mabilis pa, Jamie. 49 seconds. And then you won the gold. Tell us just how that went. What sealed that win for you in a short amount of time?
It went perfectly in my head because I kind of knew what I had to do. I had a game plan, and I'm sure my opponent was thinking that he knew that what I wanted to do as well, which is to get under the legs and isolate the leg. But when it's so clear in your head, they cannot stop you. When it's so clear that you feel it and that you just know that it's really possible for you to do it because you've rehearsed it so many times in your head and even in training, then it's just a matter of time. That's how I see it.
Your opponent was a tough one, right, in your category?
Yeah, he's a respected black belt as well in his country.
Singaporean.
Yeah, so I have respect for all my opponents because anyone who steps up to the plate to be vulnerable in competition, it's something, So I respect all of them.
Yeah. So before I let you go, I want to know what's next for
Yun.
Dean. Yeah.
2 medals, 2 gold medals
Yeah.
already in the SEA Games. What happens next? Future plans and siguro for the year ahead.
Well, I don't have an Asian Games title yet, so and there's Asian Games in Nagoya this September. So, but first we have to do the national trials, which is in 2 weeks, February 7. So. After we get in the national team again, then we'll prepare for the Asian Games. But other than that, There's a lot of other things outside of jiu-jitsu that
Yeah.
require more attention, but maybe an Asian Games title yet, and who knows.
Yeah, tuloy-tuloy lang, no?
Yes.
And we're
Yes.
hoping the best for you. Thank you so much, Dean,
thank you.
for
Thank
coming on
you.
the show,
Thank
and
you, guys.
congratulations ulit
Thank you.
on
Thanks,
your
Champ.
second
Yes.
gold medal this SEA Games.
It's nice
you,
to
guys.
see you again, Champ. Thank you. And good
Likewise,
luck.
guys. Thank
Good
you.
luck. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
And stay tuned. You're watching Starting Lineup. Welcome back to Starting Lineup. We talked about champions. Now let's look into a championship as we head on over to the PBA Finals together with our basketball analyst, Renzo Subido. Renzo, welcome. Now, they do say na basketball is like a chess match. So let's see, Renzo, kung magaling ka talaga sa chess. Now mag-chess tayo. In game 1...
Asan yung board?
Awesome, ito, in our heads.
Imaginary
Yeah. So in game 1, TNT takes the first move. And you said na they out-hustled SMB by controlling the rebounding. Now, can you expound how important this was for TNT?
I think in game 1, the rebounding department, that was the story of the ball game. I think that's part of their game plan. I think Coach Chot told his guys to, let's control the boards for us to run the break. TNT is a well-organized and high-octane team. They love to run the break. They love to, look for those open threes, those corner threes, and they did a great job on doing those stuff. And rebounding was the main reason for those stuff.
Yeah, TNT, tropang 5G, they had a stellar start for them. Si Coach Chot, medyo iniba niya yung starters niya, di ba?
Yeah,
Nagulat
oo.
yung kalaban. So that was his adjustment, at
Yeah.
least for game number 1, those changes. So he made the first move, as you mentioned. Sino ba yung mga guardia? Parang it was the guards of TNT who actually did the damage, and at the same time, they rebounded well for the team.
Just like what you said, very surprising yung starting lineup ni Coach Chot in game 1 where Simon Enciso
Yeah.
started and he contributed big time. He knocked down 3 3-pointers in the opening quarter, finished with 12 points, and I think it was really a total team effort from the guards to the bigs. Everyone was scoring, rebounding, and winning those 50-50 balls. I think there were 6 guys in double digits in game 1.
Yeah, we have to mention also the rebounding numbers, which is your main point, no? Of Tana had 10, Williams had 9. Then the guards, Jordan Heading had 8, Nambatak and Kobuntin each
Yeah.
had 5 rebounds. So that was the first move na ginawa ni Coach
Yes.
Chot. So ngayon, sabi mo nga, Jamie, chess match, diba? Ano ba yung dapat
Yes.
gawin next?
Ano nga ba? So in this coming game, siyempre babawi ang
Yeah.
previous champion ng All-Filipino, which is SMB. And magaling din si Coach Leo. What do you think they'll come up with?
I think for SMB, they need to have that sense of urgency, to start the game strong. It can't be like game 1 where they were catching up as much as 20 points in the first half, especially if you're playing against a well-organized and high-octane team like TNT. And for me, it's unacceptable if you're SMB, one of the the tallest and biggest teams in
Yeah.
the PBA, for you not to win that rebounding department. For me, it's a no-no for them.
Pero, oo nga. Pero actually, very positive din ang sinasabi ni Coach Leo and also sina Junmar after
Yeah.
their games. No, they think of it like a positive thing pa na they were down by this much by the first half, pero they got the deficit as close as 1, I think.
Yeah.
And so they see that as a positive thing. Do you think they can take that into game 2 then?
I think I agree with those guys. With what they said, I think one of the reasons that they were able to get back in the game was they were able to force TNT to 19 turnovers, and they were able to capitalize on those turnovers by converting them into turnover points. That's the reason that they were able to trim the lead down even by 2 or
Yeah.
1 point.
Nababa pa yung lamang, di ba? Parang, sabi nga ni Jamie, tambak ng first half.
Tambak,
di ba?
yeah, 20
The people
points.
thought it was gonna be a blowout all throughout, but SMB, of course, led by that man, the Kraken, Junmar Fajardo,
Yeah.
nakahabol yung Beerman. And as expected, yung numbers ni Junmar had double digits in
Yeah.
rebounding. CJ Perez also had 7, but who else has to step up for them in Game 2 for them to have a chance?
I think the guys like Chris Ross, Lassiter, Don Troliano, Jericho Cruz, SMB is a very deep team. And you have those big three, like just like what you said, Moto Tua, the Kraken, and CJ Perez. But it's already given that they're going to get their numbers. But the X factor in SMB are those guys like, Don Troliano. Definitely needs to step up in Game 2.
Kung paano tatapatan ng backcourt nila yung backcourt ng TNT, di ba? In terms of rebounding as well.
Yeah, now sa TNT naman, syempre si Coach Chot hindi magpapatalo. He will anticipate yung adjustments ng SMB. And syempre, gusto nila bumawi from the last conference because they were so close na to a Grand Slam.
Yeah.
And so they were really, really preparing for SMB. What do you think they'll be thinking coming into this game?
I think if you're Coach Chot Reyes, your TNT, you don't have to really make major adjustments, just minimal adjustments. I mean, why fix things that aren't broken, right? So I think it's more of, improving the lapses, especially taking care of the basketball. They can't afford to turn the ball over 19 times against a strong team like SMB.
Well, of course, itong game number 2, malayo pa tayo sa checkmate, kumbaga, di ba?
Yes.
Malayo pa tayo
Yes.
dyan. But for TNT to be able to continue this momentum and get more out of their squad, what will they need to rely on? Of course, rebounding, as you mentioned, is a big
Rebounding,
part
yeah.
if they continue what they did in Game 1. But because of the adjustments of Coach Leo, ano pa yung dapat gawin ng TNT para makuha yung 2-0 lead?
Alam naman natin na SMB is a very strong team. Yung lineup is very deep. Kahit yung third stringers nila can play the first 5. Diba? So I think it's all about effort. Aside from the X and O's, the game planning, it all boils down to, tripling your effort.
Yeah.
So whatever effort that you exerted in game 1, kailangan doblehin mo pa yun, triple pa, if you're playing against SMB.
Yeah. Now, talk about naman the importance for them to defend the main guys of SMB, like sina Junmar, sina CJ, sina Mo.
I think the only thing that they could do when you play against Junmar, Moto Tua, and CJ Perez is just to slow them down. But I think it's more of, choosing their poison the right way. So it's like, okay, you guys can get your numbers, but, we're going to limit the other guys like Chris Ross, Lassiter, which they did a great job. Lassiter only scored, 0 points.
Yeah.
And Lassiter... Chris Ross had 2 points, Lassiter had 0, and Troliano had 4. Those guys below their averages.
Of course, we know that both teams also have some injuries. R.R. Pagoy did not see action. Junmar Fardo also nursing some pain in his injury. But apart from these rebounding stats and the scoring, what makes SMB so dangerous na hindi mo sila pwedeng pabayaan? Kasi nga, yes, lamang yung TNT tropang 5G ng isang laro, but yes, uminit din si Simon Enciso in the first quarter. You need him to do that again. But anong meron pa sa SMB that makes them so tough to put away?
I think they've been together for so long now. Their cohesiveness as a team is already there. So usually a lot of people would say getting game 1 is very important. Yes, it's very important, but when you play against SMB, you can't really relax. They're gonna really find a way. They play with a lot of perseverance. They're relentless as a team, and especially if you have there the 11-time MVP champion Junmar Fajardo. It's really hard to stop SMB.
It'll take a village, diba, for
Yes.
TNT. Who can they draw more strength from itong tropang 5G aside from the guys that we already mentioned? Because there can be X factors na hindi pa pumuputok for TNT, especially in a long series like this. If you can name like 1 or 2 players from TNT na tingin mong pwedeng gumawa, tumulong sa susunod na mga laro.
I think if Simon Enciso continues to be, consistent, especially with the type of plays contributing, he gets to give the guys like Jordan Heading and Reynam Batak the breather that they need, especially, when entering the fourth period, the final period, yung mga importanteng situations na they're fresh.
Yeah.
If you have Simon there, backing them up.
And it's against his former team.
Yes, so I think he's motivated to play his best.
Motivated, kilala niya yung mga kalaban niya. So, let's see if he'll continue to be an X factor. But thank you so much, Renzo,
Thank
for
you.
joining
Thank
us.
you, guys.
Game 2 The finals
Let's
will
see.
happen in just a bit, so we can't wait for that. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, more basketball when we return from the break. Stay tuned. You're watching Starting Line. Welcome back to Starting Lineup. Let's head on over to the land of the rising sun as we take a look at some highlights from our Pinoy athletes that made a big buzz in the Japan B.League All-Star matchups.
We're finally going to see some action here in the B.League All-Star weekend, and the entire city of Nagasaki is buzzing with anticipation both outside and inside the Happiness Arena. Let's get to it!
Before tip-off, fans got the chance to meet members of the Asia All-Star team, Yang Jae-min, Lee Hyun-jung, Ai Chi-yu, and of course, Dwight Ramos. Fans young and old lined up for photos and autographs, including a few lucky Filipinos who flew in all the way from Manila.
Very good basketball player. He's a very great guy. So overall, I'm a fan. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see him play, and I'm excited to see him play in Japan.
Dwight was more than happy to make their day.
I love it. I love seeing Filipinos, especially when it's not in the Philippines, because you travel a long way just to get here to see us play. So I'm grateful for that.
Then the Asia Cross tournament began. Down by 2, the Asia All-Stars turned to Kiefer Ravenna, who wasted no time knocking down an immediate 3. Now a steal by you, a dime from Ravenna to Omar Jameladine, and just like that, they punched their ticket to the finals, setting up a showdown with B2 selected.
We come out with a lot of energy. We wanted to win. At the end of the day, we're basketball players. We have that pride of not losing. And everybody played hard. Not just me, but everybody had fun at the same time.
It was a roller coaster of a finals. Jameladine stayed hot. AJ Edu brought the crowd to its feet, especially with his dunk. And Ray Parks Jr., along with the rest of the squad, made sure all 5,218 fans in attendance were treated to a show. And when the game came down to the wire, who else but Dwight Ramos, cool under pressure, drilling the clutch 3 to seal the deal. Thank God for St. Dwight.
You guys had a lot of fun during this game. Any moment that stood out in particular to you?
The game-winning 3, of course, because everyone was cheering and everyone was all happy because it was close. We were about to lose and then we ended up winning. So that was the best part.
You're right. It was a crazy game towards the end, but you managed to stay calm. I think everyone wants to know how.
you guys already know I'm always calm. Same old for me. So then just nothing new.
Never let the nerves get you.
Never.
And just like that, the Asia All-Stars are crowned champions of the Asia Cross Tournament.
Well, the Asia All-Stars showed up and showed out to win it all today, but something tells me there's still more to see and more fun to come only here at the B.League All-Star Weekend.
And that was Frannie Reyes in the Japan B.League All-Star. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jamie Lim.
And I'm Dip Dipianco. This is Starting Lineup.